Okay, I will call the April 2nd, 2024 regular meeting of the Mill Creek City Council to order at 6:00 PM. We'll start with the Pledge of Allegiance. Would Councilmember Duque please lead us?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Adrian, roll call, please.
Mayor Holtzclaw,
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Vigneault, Councilmember Cavallari,
Here.
Councilmember Steckler,
Here.
Councilmember Allison,
Here.
Councilmember Duque,
Here.
and Councilmember Paddock.
Present.
Mayor Pro Tem is on vacation with her family for spring break. Can we have a motion to excuse, please?
Motion to excuse?
Second.
All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Aye.
Any abstention? Motion passes 6-0. Audience communication, Ms. Heidel, name and city of residence in 3 minutes, please.
Barb Heidel, Mill Creek, Washington. Thank you, Mayor. I do hope a very good explanation is to be given as to why we need to hire a management analyst instead of someone to help in the communications and marketing department or public works. Both these departments desperately need help to accomplish all that the residents of Mill Creek need and require to have a safe, clean city with all the events they want and well-maintained parks. I don't understand how a management analyst can provide this. What we need are workers, not management. I do hope this is looked at from all angles, pros and cons, possibilities of some employees feeling the lack of support and respect. Perhaps there is a need to have some high-level work done, but is it wise to prioritize that over the needs of a more fully staffed team to meet the obligations of the city? Please carefully think this through for all the city employees. Thank you.
Thank you, Bart. Anyone else in the audience? Seeing none, anyone online? Anyone online like to address the council? Going once, twice, 3 times. Okay, another opportunity at the end of the meeting. We're doing things a little bit different tonight. We're going to recess into executive session here momentarily at the beginning of the meeting for 2 items to discuss the status of collective bargaining negotiations pursuant to RCW 42.30.140 subsection 4B, and to discuss potential litigation pursuant to RCW 42.30.110 subsection 1 We're estimating 20 minutes. Where's our city attorney? No action, I assume, will be taken to conclusion?
That's correct, Mayor.
Okay, so no action will be taken, so we will recess into executive session at 6:03 for 22 minutes. We'll go to 6:25.
Trucks. These trucks will arrive within 2 more hours. Nobody's allowed to get fingerprints on it. No cheating in the truck. Yeah. Yeah, so not that.
Hi, Rob. Do you want to do a mic check?
Hi, Adrian. How are you?
Doing well, and it sounds great. Thank you.
Awesome. Thanks.
At 6:24, without objection, council extended the executive session until 6:35. At 6:34, without objection, council extended the executive session until 6:45. At 6:44 without objection, council extended the executive session until 6:50. At 6:49, without objection, council extended the executive session until 6:55.
Back. Is there, Sean? Okay, the council concluded its executive session at 6:54. As indicated at the outset, no action is being taken. So we will move on now to our presentations. Thank you, Mr. Fenty, for your patience. Martin, are you going to make an introduction?
Thanks, Mayor. Yeah, I'd like to introduce brief for Rob Fenty. As you know, he's our 1961 consultant. We've been pretty successful so far working with Rob, and we're coming to the last month of our work with him, and potentially more. But Rob's going to bring forward our 20-year vision and just give you an update on kind of where we're at with that. Thanks, Rob.
Excellent. Thank you very much, members of the council. It's always nice to be with you. I'll be with you in person next week, so I'll look forward to that. Tonight, I'm giving you an update on the 2040 strategic vision process, and I'm pleased to present a draft of that strategic vision to you for study. So I thought I would start with just a brief reminder of the process that we've gone through, and for those that haven't been in every step of the process. So we started back in November, and in November, we immediately engaged staff to get their voices into the process, understand history, understand dynamics in the city, and also to make sure that the strategic visioning process would align with the comprehensive plan process that Mike had kicked off. Then, as you remember, we engaged several rounds of one-on-one sessions between me and each of you to get each of your voices into the process and to really start building alignment around the key themes. And out of that, we developed a set of strategic themes and guiding principles that became the foundation of the strategic vision, specifically well-maintained outdoors, clean and safe, and community as the foundation of the strategic vision. So that led us into the first of the year, where we then again re-engaged together one-on-one to align around those strategic themes and start to frame out what would the elements of the strategic vision be. And that led us into an analysis of 11 different cities in the region, where we looked at their visions, their vision process, how they linked those visions to strategic priorities and strategic plans. And also we used that process to test the themes that we were creating in terms of uniqueness, effectively what makes Mill Creek special. That brought us through February and then into March, where I worked with you to actually turn that into a draft strategic vision that we have in front of us tonight. And each of you have now seen that strategic vision and been able to react to it. And I feel very good that there's very good alignment across the council in terms of the core elements in it. So it brings us to a final draft of that vision that I present to you tonight and introduce you for study. So as a reminder, the strategic themes that we came up with were really centered around three: clean and safe, and we were very conscious to integrate clean and safe together, because in the city they go together. And actually, you're going to see in a minute that as we did engagement out into the community, that really rang true. Well-maintained outdoors characterized by the parks, trails, connecting sidewalks, the fields, green spaces, and trees. And then community and community engagement, that people feel really connected to Mill Creek as a place, and their embedded community connection points at the center of the city, or at the center of that place. And community engagement becomes a theme that we carried forward into the strategic vision. So as I think you know, during March, we put out a survey to the community to engage community members into both the visioning process, as well as to align that with the comprehensive plan process and the themes that we are testing there. This is not quite done. Jody will give you a full report upon completion of the survey. However, I was able to get a sneak peek as of last week. So as of March 26th, we had 71 responses. And I wanted to give you just a snapshot of how those integrated with the themes that we've come up with, because the alignment is quite nice. So we asked the question, what's most important to you as you think about Mill Creek in the next 20 years? And the three top answers were safety, cleanliness, and the access to parks and trails. So right in line with the themes that we laid out. When we asked, when you think about safety specifically of Mill Creek, because that's been a conversation and it will be a conversation as we moved into strategic priorities, we asked, what does that mean to you? And the top two answers were low actual crime rates and clean streets, clean sidewalks, parks, and public spaces. So it integrated or validated that concept that clean and safe go together in the city. We tested community engagement. This is a very positive response. Almost 50% of respondents indicated that they are very willing to engage, to volunteer time and effort to keep the city clean. We tested that specifically as a measure of how much are people willing to lean in as a part of community engagement, and keeping the city clean was a good marker of that. We asked, what would you be most interested in seeing more of in Mill Creek in the next 20 years to start to tie the visioning and exercise with the comprehensive plan? And the top two answers there really aligned with what we've been talking about: more local restaurants and retail shops, which align to the vision of the inner core, and more trails and connecting sidewalks, which continue to keep the community connected. We continue to go around what attributes best contribute to the quality of life in Mill Creek today. This was a big, long list that respondents looked at. And the four answers you can see: quality of neighborhoods, high quality and extensive network of parks, trails, open spaces, aesthetically pleasing, ties to clean, and overall level of public safety. So again, really ties together the themes that we've generated through the process and that have carried forward into the strategic vision. And then you can see at the top, even more striking, 97% of respondents said it's extremely or very important that our public spaces are well maintained and clean. So I would not expect any of this as a surprise. However, good confirmation of what you've developed in this process in terms of the themes and the strategic vision. So here is the draft strategic vision. As you've seen before, it lives on one page, and it follows a framework that we collectively agreed to as a best practice from the other cities that we looked at. I would remind you, this is an aspirational vision. This is a statement of what we aspire to be in 2040. So all the statements are in the present tense. However, it's through that lens of what we're aspiring the city to be in 2040. So it starts out with an overarching vision statement that Mill Creek is a thriving, connected, and safe community characterized by its walkability, well-maintained parks and trails, safe and clean public spaces, and strong community engagement. And then we backed that up with the four themes that we generated through the process: financial health and economic vitality, the ability for the city to be economically viable and support the services that it needs. And the three statements that support that, the first really calls to the vision of the inner core. Mill Creek has multiple commercial hubs with a vibrant central core, enabling businesses to thrive, creating a destination for dining and shopping, and providing a stable economic base for city services. Mill Creek proactively funds the services that meet community needs and priorities, and it also has enough money in reserves both to strategically invest in the city and to cover unanticipated expenses. The second major theme is safe and clean. In Mill Creek, safe and clean go together, and that's backed up by three sub-bullets. Mill Creek is known as one of the safest and cleanest cities in Washington. We actually sanity checked that in the process that is true today when we look at crime statistics, and obviously the rest is perceptual. Mill Creek's police force is an integral part of the community, ensuring active police presence, integrating appropriate technologies, and proactively managing traffic flow to keep our community safe. And the Mill Creek community is engaged and committed to keep its parks, trails, streets, and public spaces safe and clean. The third major theme is around community. Thriving, engaged, and connected community, supported by four sub-bullets. Mill Creek is a connected community tied together by trails, walking paths, and connecting sidewalks. Mill Creek actively supports community events, which bring community members together. The city's multi-purpose community facility and public spaces bring people together to connect, play, share, and enjoy life in Mill Creek. And the people of Mill Creek are actively engaged in the community and committed to making it a great place to live. And finally, the fourth theme dedicated to well-maintained outdoors, public spaces, and infrastructure. And the three sub-bullets here: Mill Creek is recognized as one of the most walkable cities in Washington. Mill Creek's parks, trails, and public spaces are well maintained and accessible for all community members. And Mill Creek's infrastructure is well maintained and trusted by community members. Now, I would note in the presentation of this, I have put in representative icons. Obviously, at the close of this, we'll put this in the hands of the marketing team to design so that it's in line with the Mill Creek look and feel. But just to bring it to have some representative icons, I put those there. Maybe, Mayor, I'll stop there for a second to see if there are any questions, and then I'll close just with what's going to happen over the next month and where we go in terms of next steps.
Okay, thank you, Rob. Questions? Councilmember Cavallari.
Thanks, Mayor. Hey, Rob, how long did the survey take place? Because 71 respondents seems a bit small.
It's been active over the last, and Mike, you can help me with this. 2 months is what I'm remembering that we took it live last month.
Yeah, I'm gonna look over at Jody here too. So part of the comp plan process, they started doing some survey, I think before Christmas. It wasn't going really terribly well. I think we had like 20 inputs, and then we started talking to Rob and said, let's shorten it down and make it work for both. And I think that was in January. Middle of January, do you remember, Jody? Something like that. So it's been about 2 months. We ran some more surveys this weekend, another 25 or so this weekend.
That was even a more condensed version this weekend, right now.
Okay, but kind of final check on that. So it's hard to get people to do surveys these days. We all struggle for doing that. If you get 200, you'd be absolutely overjoyed. So like Montlake Terrace, I think got 200 for their kind of thing. So we're doing okay at 71. And I think the clustering is pretty good on it. Julie will give us more information later, but it's not like it's very dispersed results.
Thank you.
Other questions? Sean, you don't have any, okay. Not seeing any other questions, so please continue.
Okay, thank you. So I wanted to give you a quick glimpse of where we go next. As you know, we'll be together next week, visiting Woodinville, Kenmore, and Bothell. We'll receive presentations and walking tours in each of those cities, really to validate and start to validate the strategic themes, and also really start to transition into the conversation around strategic priorities of how do we want the vision to come to life in the next 3 to 5 years. Obviously, I've now put this into your hands for the study and approval process that you see fit. Where I'm now moving next is to start to engage with staff and each of you next week around the drafting of strategic priorities that are both in context to the strategic vision and also integrate the work that you've already done at the strategic retreat. And so I'll be working with you in 1s and 2s next week to really articulate a first draft of 3 to 5 year strategic priorities, so we can start to see the tie of the strategic vision to the planning and implementation. And then I'm working with Martin to look forward in terms of once we have those strategic priorities, how do we actually make sure there's implementation and operational planning around those? Because some of those are going to move fairly quickly. So we'll want to make sure that plans are in place, that staff is executing and getting the support that they need. So that's all going to happen in April.
Questions?
Councilmember Paddock.
Councilmember Paddock. You're on mute.
Got it. Apologies. Thanks, Rob, for putting this together and running us through it. And I really like, before I ask my question, I really like the consolidation of what was the 5 bullets down to the 4 around the thriving, engaged, and connected community. I think it's much more succinct, and appreciate that. A question that I asked Rob when we first went over this, and it was the first time I'd seen it, and actually the last time I've heard it, is there's the comment in there about the traffic and some concern about traffic flow, which is not something I've ever really heard us talk about and heard us talk about since. So is that something that we discuss in the second bullet there? Council will study and approve. We kind of talk through what traffic has to do with our 15-year plan here. Or do we talk about that now?
So obviously, Councilmember Paddock, we do have time. The whole point of putting it into study is to, if there are, words that don't quite resonate, or if there's something final to make changes. That was an overarching theme that came out of conversations just as the city looks forward in terms of growth and the growth of the region, just to make sure that as roads and or highways are coming through the city, that there is a nod to that part of safety is making sure that we're managing traffic flow in light of that. Nothing more intended around that at this point in terms of actions or specific next steps.
Other questions? I had a thought I'll throw out there. Do we have an agenda for the city chat in May? Jody? I won't be there, but do we have an agenda? No, I was wondering if we should make part of that, having a forum on the strategic plan to have the public have an opportunity to comment on this.
It's entirely possible because the way we've set it up is, it's kind of like the job fair styles. We'll have tables for different departments. So that, someone stand up. For that.
What does the council think about that, given the challenge they've had getting responses to surveys, given them an opportunity at that forum to,
I'd support that.
Yeah, push it.
I don't think there's any rush to get this finalized in the next 6 weeks. And if we have one more opportunity to get some public input, if it's not changing what you've already been planning, it would just be a slight addition to it.
So I don't think there's any bad ideas. I think that works fine. I worry, and the reason I asked the question is what the communication modes that we're using for outreach to the public was one concern of mine, and perhaps even the timing. I know we really acquire a lot of data and information when we have it at festivals and outdoor events, and there's a lot more participation, and just relying on the same old communication methods as outreach, I think something we should look at and would fetch a lot better yield.
Councilmember, I'm sorry, are you done?
Yeah.
Councilmember Paddock? Is your hand still up?
The hand up. No, my hand was up. One to thumbs up for doing something as part of the city chat. And also just, Mayor, if you could clarify or Rob, council will study and approve if necessary the 2040 strategic vision. Are we going to have like a study session to wordsmith and approve it? What kind of really happens next with making this official?
I think that's up to what we decide to do on the process of how much more public engagement and attempts to get public input before we have a final decision. We can certainly have a study session on it in April to wordsmith it if you like. Is there a desire to do that? Well, we can talk about it we'll have a discussion when you're back from vacation.
Yeah.
Councilmember Paddock.
Understood. Okay. I'd like
Okay.
to see that happen if possible. Just want to
Okay.
make sure I'm clear about what the next steps are. Thank you.
Other questions for Rob? I guess, the only other question I had is on your third bullet up on the screen, it refers to the November 23 strategic retreat. Did that mean the retreat we just had in January?
Yeah. Yes, for some reason I attributed it to November. That was correct.
Okay, I was just
Of
trying to
course,
make
you're
sure I
correct there, Mayor.
Just trying to make sure I didn't miss something. Okay. Okay, any final
I'll
questions?
correct that in the slides.
Thanks. Any final questions? Okay, look forward to seeing you next week, Rob.
Likewise, thank you.
Thank you. Okay, our other presentation, PSE, Mr. Bean.
Good evening, Mayor, Council, honored guests. Tonight, I want to bring an update on the pavement patches we've seen in front of City Hall the past few years. Just a quick update on that. This first occurred in 2018. PSC was replacing their DuPont pipe down 164th. As a result of that, there were many cuts along Main and Mill Creek Boulevard for service connections and facility upgrades. In 2019, there was a city stormwater pipe replacement, which allowed the city to coordinate with PSC on reimbursement for paving 2 different intersections. At that, and also to allow them to do the patches in the roadway. Those patches were substandard, and that's kind of shown in these pictures here. A standard patch, a standard patch would be full width of the lane from the gutter edge to the stripe, and also it would replace the stripe if stripe was removed. So in 2022, 2023, the Public Works Department worked with PSC to negotiate them to come back and fix those, and this is the completion of that. So there are 3 patches on northbound Main Street. There's 23 patches on southbound Mill Creek Boulevard and 2 patches on northbound Mill Creek Boulevard. And in some cases, those patches are pretty close together, so they're going to combine them and make them one larger repave area. They'll just give a nicer look. The standards they're going to follow are the existing standards they should have followed in the first place. Which are required, they're coming a foot outside of the existing patch, going the full width of the lane, and then going beyond the patch at least 1 foot. Should look nice, and then restripe according to these standard plans. PSC's permit has been approved. They are planning to pave and stripe May 6 through 9. They may start 6, 7, 8, sometime in that week. They're going to take 1 day to go southbound and 1 day to go northbound. And so, like I said, they're going to combine some patches for efficiency. Any questions?
Councilmember Cavalieri.
Thanks, Mayor. Just out of curiosity, are any of these roads or patchable areas, are they at maybe their life's end of life expectancy ending, where we can combine the work to maybe, instead of tearing the road up a couple of times? And is it in the future for us to be replacing this in a year or so?
It is scheduled for that road to be resurfaced and repaired. It's not within a year. And this time matches better with PSC's ability to get out and take care of this. So.
Okay, I'll leave it to the experts. Thank you.
Other questions? Sean, no questions?
No question. Oh, John.
Okay. Thank you for the update. Appreciate
you.
it. Okay, our new business, Finance Director.
Thank you, Mayor. Good evening, council members, staff, and our audience here in the council chambers, and also joining us virtually. So this is the 3rd settlement agreement regarding the opioid litigation. So a while back, about 8 years ago, we started the Washington Attorney General's office started the litigation with the opioid industry. And over the last 3-4 years, we've reached certain settlements, and you've taken action for us to participate in some of them. And so right now we have last January 24 of 2024, the Washington State General was able to reach an agreement with Janssen, the parent company of Johnson & Johnson, and to take action, we have to or to join the settlement, we have to submit by May 11. And so just as a brief background, the settlement number 1 was with the distributors. There were 3 distributors. It was Cardinal Health, McKesson, and AmeriSource. And with this settlement, it was $430 million. It will be payable over 17 years, 50% to the state, and then 50% with local government. And our share, based on the mutual agreement that we have with the Washington State, our share would be 0.1227939546% of the approximately of the monies that will go into the settlement fund. And so to date, we have received 35,307 from the settlement number 1. Settlement number 2 was with the 5 pharmacies and pharmacies and manufacturers, Teva, Allergan, CVS, Walgreens, and Walmart. And the payments altogether is approximately 434 million. And the payment terms are staggered over several years. Our distribution to date, which we received last March, was 52,000. And that is based off of the percentage that I just mentioned earlier. And so between settlement 1 and 2, they have the consistent use that's required by the MOU, and that's the funds must be used for opioid abatement strategies, specifically treatment, prevention, and other programs for first responders, the leadership planning and coordination, training and research. And the specifics of the uses are also found on stamp page 100 of 166 of your agenda packet. And now coming to the third settlement, this is the Janssen, again, Washington statewide opioid settlement. If all eligible cities and counties join by May 5, the payment that we will receive is 149.5 million payable this year. And of that amount, 123.3 million will go into the settlement fund, split 50-50 between the state and local government. And based off of the percentage I mentioned earlier, our estimated distribution is 75,700. Now, if not all of the eligible cities and counties join by the deadline, the payment will be reduced by 5%, and that 5% will be likely be payable in by 2026. The opioid, the Janssen settlement also requires that at least 85% of the funds must be used for the opioid remediation, as described in stamp page 100 of 166. And so the action that we need to do to join the settlement is to execute the participation form and submit those documents by May 11. We recommend that we do the participation, or we execute the participation and authorize the city manager to execute that participation form and submit those to the to the Washington State General's Office, Attorney General's Office. That concludes my report, Mayor. And the council action is stated above.
Thank you. One question, are the funds from this settlement, were they contemplated in the presentation we had last week or the week before? Or is this going to be money in addition to those numbers that we looked at?
Okay, the one time, so there is a one-time payment coming this year, which will be in addition to the 94 total that I mentioned last week.
Okay,
So, and then, of course, there's that average of about 25K per year over the next 14 years that we will also receive. So it'll be 434 plus the one-time payment that we will be getting this year.
are there other potential settlements hanging out there or looming that we don't know about yet?
Not that we know of.
Not that we, yeah.
I ask only because we kind of gave direction on how to use the funds we know about. Do we have a standing understanding that anything we don't know about that we get would be treated in the same manner?
Not that I'm aware of. Yeah.
I mean, I assume that was our intent, is that if we have another settlement that we weren't aware of, that falls within the direction we already gave for the opioid settlement funds generally, right?
Yes.
And you've documented that now, yeah.
Okay. Okay. Any other questions?
Mayor, I'd like to make a motion if I could.
Please do.
Approve a resolution authorizing the city to participate in the Janssen Washington statewide opioid settlement agreement and authorizing the city manager to execute all documents necessary for the city to participate in the settlements and the allocation agreement distributing settlement proceeds among Washington local governments.
Second.
Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor of the motion, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion passes
Thank you, Mayor.
6-0. Thank you.
All right, Mayor, Council, now next item on the agenda is bringing forward the budget amendment, adding a management analyst position to the salary schedule. So a few things I want to mention, I think, before I start is a little bit about kind of what we do as a leadership team, and then the information that and kind of things, how we make decisions at a higher level across the city. Both the deputy city manager and myself have a very good understanding of the capacity, the employees across the departments, the capacity issues that we have, also the gaps that exist between the public services that we have to deliver and the resources that we have in that delta between kind of where that sits. It's something that we've been discussing, or I have been discussing with the department representatives since 2022 and 2023 over various times about the need to address capacity across departments in various ways. A lot of those challenges from putting the staff, making those decisions are very difficult because a lot of things that we do at the leadership level involve not only just looking at the delta between projects and staff, but also there are a lot of other things across the city that we deal with that we don't even talk about. The things are not mentioned from a management standpoint that we have to consider as we make decisions. There's so many things that are in the works or that interplay across departments that affect the decisions that we make. And it's a lot of things these are difficult decisions moving forward. Right now we have recruits new recruits that are waiting to be slotted. We have vacant positions still that you have to fill. And so we still have a lot of things we need to do to assess before we even actually make certain decisions on how we hire. But we do make decisions on how, when opportunities and things arise where we find a need to address certain problems and issues that we have moving forward. And one is a lot of the projects that we have that have been slated on the work plan since 2022 and 2023 that are not completed or not even started. Some examples include some of these core administrative projects, including, file management of our G Drive, contract management, managing code revision updates, CRM, things that span the city that we haven't even started yet. There are just department-specific projects that could use support as well, including GIS, management program in the HR, Springbrook, global employee list, procurement process, grant management process, and supporting consultants on the fee study, for example, as well. And the reason why I mentioned those things that need to be done is because there's some factual information that I think that we just haven't started these projects yet. And the reason why is because there's capacity issues. Some other facts include that I'm completely aware that we do have capacity issues and there are needs across the department, but until we have a sense of where Public Works sits, for example, we don't have a planning manager yet. As I mentioned, police, we're still waiting on 5 recruits to get into the academy. So until we get them back on fully trained, probably mid next year, we have a better sense of what capacity they have on that end as well. So what I'm proposing today is that the council considers the addition of a management analyst. It's a position that reports to me in the exec department. I will be the sole person with the deputy city manager make decisions on where the projects, what projects get handled or led by this position. The project will also not only be led by the person in this position, but also this position will also support other departments across the city in accomplishing their needs as well. For example, GIS. If Dan Carmody leads a GIS project, then this position could also support that position in making sure that it moves forward. And it could also be used in improving workflows as well, where you can just create processes and then plug and play into other departments. So I'm ultimately requesting that we add this to our salary schedule, modifying the 2023 and 24 budget, biennial budget. So with that, I'll take any questions.
Any questions?
Yes.
Councilmember Steckley.
What question I had, I think you stated here that there's no need for budget, or appropriation changes. Is that correct?
Yeah,
That
that's
is
correct
correct.
at this time. We're just, that's correct.
So, even though we're adding a position, wouldn't we need to have budget changes? Or is it that you have enough in the general fund to cover this and therefore don't want to make budget changes for it?
So at this point in time, we're looking at roughly $67,000 for the rest of this budget. We're not sure, but we're thinking we may be able to offset that expense with other general fund expenses that we don't end up using.
Will this change your FTE count?
Yes,
So you are going to go up by 1.
yes.
Okay. Okay.
But the expense will just be offset with other expenses,
Okay,
with other savings, if that.
understood. We are going with an increase. We're not changing any of the positions or cutting any positions. We are
Right.
adding a position,
Correct.
but we have the funding to cover that. Okay, that's what I wanted to confirm.
We may need additional budget authority in the last budget amendment for the year. We just are not sure what that'll look like yet.
Councilmember Cavallari.
Thank you, Mayor. I'm gonna support the addition of this position. I know for several years now, we have discussed this kind of quasi, I guess, cross-pollination employee manager to assist the managers in completing their tasks, and especially with the grant writing aspect. I know there are several grants we have possibly missed out on. I think this is helpful, and the impact on the budget is minimal at this point. I think there's a lot of fruit to be bore here, and I think it's worth the effort going forward to maybe put this position in place. So I'm going to support the city staff and its endeavor here. Thanks.
Councilmember Paddock.
Thank you, Mayor. I had 2 questions. One is, was there a job description that was set out for this? I know you listed a number of topics someone could do, but is there one question? Is there a formal job description that's been provided? Pardon?
Yes, it should be in the packet.
Okay, thank you. I'll take
Yeah.
a look at that. And then the second is, was this position part of the biennium staffing plan? I know we had a number of positions that the city was hoping to put in place that were not included because we obviously didn't have the funds to do that. Was this one of those?
It wasn't. Yeah, it's a new position. Thank you.
Okay. And
Councilmember
this is
Allison.
more
Oh, I'm sorry.
important, is what I'm hearing. That's right. I just want to make sure, what I'm hearing is the city is prioritizing this new position over the positions 18 months ago or so that were not prioritized based on funding. This is moved up their ranks. Prioritization.
Council,
Thank you.
is that, do you? Councilmember Allison.
Yeah, so do you envision this position being filled to allow you to better assess what your capabilities are and refine the staffing plan going forward? Okay.
That is correct. I think it's not only gonna be able to assess what the position is mainly gonna be used for project development. And I think it'll also give us the executive office, a better sense of our goals and how to set those KPIs as well. It's a position that is typically part of local governments and a lot of agencies that I've been in the past, and it definitely will be used, I believe, in the long term as well to address a lot of the gaps that departments where they need that capacity to be, where they need that help. It is not designed to supplant anyone's CIP projects or anything. It's more of a supplement to departments for additional help.
Okay.
Did you have any? You can go ahead with a comment.
So I I want to first thank the city manager for meeting with me on Friday to discuss this particular position. I wanted to share that I will be voting no for it, not because I don't understand everything that you are talking about and not because it's very clear that you have a vision in mind. But even taking a look at the job functions, I was very surprised that it includes, for the level that it is, assisting in writing news releases and maintaining web pages, which feels like that's a comm job, or even preparation for agenda packet and for meetings. And so it seems like there's more of a need for staff members who are doing the specific tasks within those departments than someone else that's top heavy in the executive or the administration section. And so while I really appreciate your thoughts and I mean in what you shared with me, and I think I'm the only dissenting, but for me, it seems like the priority should still be on the positions that were outlined by the departments when developing the budgets previously, and that were shared for us, that unfortunately we then couldn't move forward with because we didn't have. And I haven't seen any huge updates on additional revenues or any big plans or changes for how we're going to be able to this time around fill those positions or create those positions where there's obviously a need.
One of the things I'll mention is that one of the reasons why we have been very successful over the past few years is being pretty agile, being able to adapt to situations outside the confines of our budgeting process. And this is one of them where we bring you something that we think is necessary. We have a good financial team and we have a good sense of kind of where we sit financially. And utilizing to me, in my opinion, utilizing those funds in a way when we need them or we think we need them, I think is really important. And sometimes it's outside the comfort level of individuals not understanding the decisions that we make at the leadership level, and I get that. But I think that's the transparency that's needed even on the employee side, because it's clear that some individuals don't understand why we make decisions. So that's something we have to deal with internally, but I would say that at some point in time, we need to be trusted as leadership team to make these decisions, and I respect the decisions that are made by council. And so I just had to mention that I've heard direction from council in a number of occasions too, that we need to start utilizing, making decisions about how we build resources. And there are some situations that may not, again, be in the budget plan process. And we'll still continue to bring those forward though, because I think those are the things that will help develop the city, even if they're not planned. And I think that's our advantage. So thanks.
John, is it okay if I share my thoughts before I go back to you?
Yes, I was going to actually now make a comment, not a question. So I would also like to go on the record as saying I support this position, but I want to express my position why and be a little personal here. When I first joined the council, I came from a long history in corporate America and a zero history in the public sector. So it was quite a shock for me. And when I see I also like being able to be nimble in any organization, whether it be public or private. And sometimes you have to be nimble and say, this isn't something we were thinking about before, but now we see the opportunity. Anytime I see a position where leadership is willing to say, look, this position is going to allow us to accomplish more. It's not going to be a position of activity. It's going to be a position of results. And you're putting yourself on the line when you say we want this position for that reason, so that we're going to come back and say, hey, how's that position doing? What have they gotten done? What's been accomplished because of that position? So that's taking a lot of accountability, and I appreciate that and I support that. So when leadership says this is what we need to be successful, I think and it's accountable and it's actionable and it's measurable. I think as a council, unless we think it's a big mistake, we do need to support you in your decisions to make this city stronger, better, and to accomplish more in the way of projects. I do like the fact that this position isn't assigned to one department. I really like that because this is a little bit unique. When the department need comes up in a certain department, that's not a position that's owned by finance or police or marketing or any, it's available to be used at the betterment of the city. So I support this and I think it's a wise investment. And I thank you for bringing it forward.
Councilmember Cavalieri?
Oh, go ahead, Mayor.
Yeah, a few thoughts. I'm generally supportive of this, but here's where I'm struggling a bit just with timing. Is, you know, my role up here as all of ours, we set the policy. I don't like to micromanage. So as you just said, I tend to defer to the city manager and how we hire you to run the city. But we do ultimately control the budget. And we are in this unique situation where we're being asked to approve something outside of the regular cycle, which we'll be doing in November. You know, looking back 4 years, we tightened the belt pretty dang hard in response to COVID, but it was the right decision to make because we didn't know which way the world was turning. And we also honored our commitment to the voters with the annexation. We kept our tax revenue neutral so that there was no, unlike the other cities that had their annexations approved, which kept everything, they didn't reduce their city levy. But where I'm struggling a bit is that we have identified immense needs in other departments. And if we wait until November, I mean, that's 7 months from now. So if we authorize some other positions in November, by the time those get posted and hired, we might be a year down the road before they're getting any help. And so why I'm supportive of this, and I wish the Mayor Pro Tem was here, because this is the type of issue I'd like to have all 7 of us having input on. But we did this for the deputy police chief position, where we used ARPA funds as the bridge to get us there. And I'm wondering if, because I hear exactly what Barb is saying with her comments at the outset of the meeting, is I am concerned about the message it sends. I'm with all deference to the decision, and I don't question the need for the position. I can see how it comes across to the other staff that this is suddenly being elevated in priority to the others. And so I'm wondering if, as part of, if we consider adding this, if we ask them to bring staff to bring us, how could we use ARPA funds to give us a Band-Aid between now and November for some staff help, because they need it now. I mean, staff is in an unenviable position. They're victims of their own success. We saw from Mr. Fenty's presentation, they've set the bar very high for themselves, which is good and bad. Right now it's bad because I'm not sure we have the staff to meet the expectations of our residents. So I'm supportive of this. My question is there an appetite to have in the next 7 days, staff bring back to us a proposal for some ideas on how we might allocate some ARPA funds to address some of the other needs between now and the budget time, and approve this in that context where we have a little bigger discussion rather than taking this in isolation. So those were my thoughts. Councilmember Cavalieri, you had turned your light off, so.
Thank you, Mayor. One of my comments was that the utilization of ARPA funds was more likely than not appropriate here, but was more of a, maybe just some thoughts from my head, is that using COVID as an analogy is we did tighten the belt, and to use your words, and we asked everybody to step up and work a little bit harder, and they did, and they filled the void, they filled gaps with minimal staffing. And as we started to acquire more staffing that was necessary for the city's growth, for the city's operations, these are the same managers for the most part, a lot of them that are still here, still doing the same thing, still carrying that heavy workload. And this discussion of really what every successful winning team talks about. I'm going to use a baseball analogy. They always have a successful utility player. And what I gleaned from the city manager's recommendation is that he needs that utility player to put up to the plate, you know, that bridge to the 8th or 9th inning in the bullpen, however you want to phrase it. And Like I said, I have to trust him to manage it. So that's where I'm at. And I'm going to support it based on that. I don't know if I want to talk about using ARPA funds for a more broader purpose and tying this to that. We can talk about that next week, but I think this more specific need is for this position today.
And just to be clear, I wasn't questioning the need for the position. What I was suggesting is not tie it to it, but bring it to us so we can have a discussion about, is there something we can do in the short term to give some help to the rest of the staff? So it wouldn't be conditioned upon that. I just want to, I think some of us may want to consider this request in conjunction with knowing what other steps we could take to address the other needs in the short term. Councilmember Allison?
Yeah, I would feel more comfortable if we next week could talk about other ways to help those other departments, because it's clear there's needs. And I don't want to cut off the city manager's ability to manage the organization. And I support this additional position for that purpose, but maybe there is something else we could do, and I would be interested in looking at that.
Yeah, and the intent of my suggestion wasn't that you bring back the full-blown analysis that you're planning on working on in November, but is there something that we could do in the short term to help out on some of these needs? I mean, Jody and Scott are working to their bones, as are the public works staff, everyone is. So it's not conditioned on it. I mean, I would like to have the Mayor Pro Tem's input. I think we should make these decisions, all 7 of us, when possible. But are there some ideas you can bring back to us that we could consider? So when we make this decision on this one isolated request, we're doing it in the conjunction of knowing what other options are out there that we might not act upon next week, but we could consider in the weeks ahead. Councilmember Paddock?
Thank you. Yeah, just ditto on wanting to have that broader context, how this fits into the other priorities that have been mentioned. And I would like to, Councilmember Steckler brought up the outcomes that would be delivered by this role. What I read, after going back now to the job description, were a number of actions, not a number of outcomes that would be driven by this particular role. And I think it would be helpful to hear that as part of that discussion next week. At this point, if we were to vote now, I would be a hard no. But I'm persuadable if it fits into the context and the outcomes that the city needs.
Can we bring this back next week with that information and have Councilmember Steckler?
Yeah, I'm having a couple concerns on this, and maybe I'm just wrong. And so everyone can correct me, but we hired a city manager to manage the staff, and we're not always going to agree with everything they want to do. Maybe when there's for us to sit here and say, you need to give more support to public works, or you need to give more support to marketing, they already know that. They're trying to manage within the confines of the structure that we gave them. And they've come back to us now with this unique position where they say, we want to have somebody who can work across different disciplines and help where they need to be helped. And we need it now, and we can afford it now. To put them on hold seems almost like I feel, and maybe I'm wrong, I feel like I'm micromanaging them. And I think they've committed to results, and that I really appreciate. I would love to have the discussion of, maybe more staff or whatever. I think that's fine. I think that's great. I hate to see them hold up on something that they want to move forward with, because it's like we're trying to tell them how specifically to manage. I know we're supposed to manage the city manager. That's the only person we manage. He manages his whole city. So I always like to take a fine line as to when they're doing something that I think is wrong for the city, then that's when I'll pull out my big, red marker and say no. But I think I don't see a real negative for this. I don't see any problem with having additional discussions about additional staff. I'm sure they wouldn't mind that either if we were support more positions. We weren't that supportive of them before last time we had the discussion. So I think this is a smart idea. I love the fact it cross-pollinates in other divisions and other departments when they need help. And I would hate to say that we're saying the message that, that you can't have what you're asking for another week. I would like to vote on it today, and if the council votes it down, council votes it down. But I think the position is a smart idea, and I would like to support it. So I would ask that we still take a vote today and not table it. So with that, I'd like to make a motion, if I could, unless there's any other questions.
Before you make the motion, just one comment. I fully support this position too.
So I just want to make it clear, though, the council would want an assessment on the capacity needs across the city in all the departments.
No, I'm not looking for, I'm not suggesting the full-blown analysis that we've talked about, you coming to us as part of the budget discussions. I'm talking about, is there anything we could do? And maybe you'll come back and say there isn't, but is there something we could do with the ARPA funds? For instance, to authorize to get some help between now and November before we make final decisions on the bigger picture, full-blown staff of what changes we need to make. Is there?
Yeah, okay. So we have made decisions on marketing and hiring I think it's temporary contractor in the market, in Marcom to support them for the rest, what's it, a year or two? Whatever the terms are. So we've addressed that, something we've been discussing since last year. We have been in discussions, I have been with Director Todd about there's certain things that can't give as we start to move forward. We have projects, there's things, certain variables we can adjust. Projects, you can go up or down, staff can go up or down. And so, and you could change the structure around to at least better plan us for kind of the projects that we're working on now. So we're having a lot of discussions on that right now. And we planned on going to the budget session, making more permanent, potentially permanent position decisions. But as you said, it's not gonna be until November that those are approved. But so just to be clear that on the marketing side, we are looking to hire someone really soon to support them. Is there any other departments? Marcom, yeah. We brought it, well, yeah, that's.
Mayor, that I'd like to make a motion.
Did you, your light went on and off. Did you have another question or comment? Okay.
All right. Make a motion to approve an ordinance modifying the 2023-2024 biennial budget to add a position to the salary schedule.
Second.
Is there a discussion?
Maybe just one more comment. I think sometimes, and I'm just going to echo Councilmember Steckler's point he just made a moment ago, and maybe just paraphrase it a little bit, is that sometimes the coaches need to get out of the way and just let the team play. And I think that's where I fall on this here. Again, that's my role as a council member, is to allow the city manager to manage. Thank you.
Councilmember Duque.
So I think I was taking it back, but I wanted to be clear. I am not asking us to micromanage what our city manager chooses to do. And I'm happy to support whatever the vote is, we'll be happy to support whoever we work with. That is not my point. But as a city council member, I am up here representing our residents and our processes. And in that, we are saying that safety, we went through a whole thing about what our priorities are. So I'm just saying that those things we should be focusing on. And so I have, I just wrote here, it is very important for me to keep repeating and flagging and saying, this is what our community is telling us is important. And what I keep hearing over and over again is things that would be handled in public works, by people who are doing the work, and also even we keep talking about Marcom, but it's the recreational aspect too, not having a rec person specifically. Those are the things that our residents are saying that are important to them when they talk to us. And I think that's why I wanted to flag whatever the outcome is. I do think that is our role to be here and to say that and to remind our city manager what it is. And I don't think that's micromanaging. It's just reminding every single time of what the priorities are and what we have outlined.
Can I just rebuttal, Mayor? I agree with you. You're absolutely right. That is why we're here. We've had several presentations this evening doing exactly that, whether it's pothole fixing, Rob Fenty's 2040 vision, whatever we're calling it these days, and last week's agenda. So, I mean, we're doing all those things. That doesn't change what the dynamic of what we're talking about here this evening. This is all part of that same process. So I don't feel it's an end around or anything like that. This is just another nuance to it.
Sean, did you have any comments you want to make before we vote?
Just confusion, but I'll get past that.
Just
I'm good.
confusion?
Thank you for asking. The last comment, I didn't quite jive, but I'm here.
Yeah, I'm not going to support the motion, but it's not because I don't support this position. We heard a little bit from the city manager just a minute ago about some of the steps that I had not heard that we're taking on some of these other positions and other needs. So I'd like to hear that in a more comprehensive package, as well as what other steps are being taken or can be taken between now and November, so that I'm not voting on this position in isolation, because as Councilmember Duque said, staff identified a number of other priorities, and at that time, this wasn't one of them. I understand it is now, and I fully support the position. I'd just like to be able to consider it in the context of the bigger picture. So I don't think this is gonna be the end of the world if we waited a week, and that's why I'm gonna not be supporting the motion tonight. Is there any other discussion? All those in favor of the motion, please say aye.
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 Those opposed?
Nay.
Nay.
That would mean a tie. And we
Right.
don't have a fourth year, so we will, I guess, put this back on the agenda for next Tuesday night when we have 7 of us. Okay, we have no proposed new initiatives tonight, no study session, no consent agenda. Reports, city manager.
All right, thanks, Mayor. So the first one is Swift Orange Line. Had a good opportunity to opening ceremony, of the Orange Line on Saturday, and I had to leave a bit early, but had the opportunity to meet with a lot of the electeds that came to celebrate the occasion. And I'm not gonna speak too much on it because I know that 1, 2, 3 other electeds here were there, so I'll let them elaborate. Rob had good presentation on our 1961 project, and just wanted to mention that also had the opportunity to meet with the city managers of the 3 cities that we will be visiting on April 11th. And it was not only, it was to thank them as well as talk about logistics of the project, and it was a good time to get their feedback on a lot of things that they've been working on, including speed cameras in some of the neighborhoods in Bothell, and some of the multi-use projects in Woodinville, and Ken Moore's shared space that Rob Killarney, city manager there, is very proud of. So those are my final reports, and I'll transfer it over to marketing, Jody Hawkins, to elaborate on the state of the city that's coming up in May or April, late April. Sorry, thanks.
Thank you. Can you hear me? Oh,
Yep.
Here we go. Thank you for the chance to talk about our State of the City luncheon. We're very excited to partner with the Mill Creek Chamber. I brought this poster just so that you guys could see it if you hadn't. Along those lines, if you go take a trip next door to City Hall North, you will see the digital signage that I promised a couple months ago up next door, and we'll be having that installed here. You'll see 3 new displays here in City Hall South in the next couple weeks. So you'll see things like this instead of paper on digital. But we're excited about the State of the City luncheon. We've done the State of the City for the past couple of years using solely just using video and then pushing that out on social media. And what we found is the audience just wasn't there. And so we wanted to do something a little bit different. We are still going to record it. We're still going to put it out into the city, but we're going to work with the chamber and do a luncheon similar to the community luncheon that they've done with the city as a thank you for the past few years at the Forum in Mill Creek Town Center. So we're gonna do a luncheon from 12 to 1 on Wednesday, April 24th. Mayor and Mayor Pro Tem will be there speaking. Everyone will get a free lunch. We're working with the businesses in the forum to provide the food. So we'll purchase the food from them and have them supply it. We're still working out all the details on that. But we're real excited about the opportunity here. And you'll see more going out in social and in print, through the newsletters and advertising over the next couple of weeks. Are there any questions on that? No. Okay. And then I just wanted to give a quick update on our extravaganza. I think we had about 3,500 people there on Saturday. So many excited little kiddos and their families. And depending on what your measure of success is, it was a success if numbers were the measure. But there were some things that we'll do differently next year. I think that the size is growing so much that there's some changes that we need to make in how it all comes together, the numbers of people that we need to pull together to make a success for the community where they really feel like they're at a community event. I don't think that happened this time, it's the first event I've been a part of for the city that I didn't feel that feeling when I left. And it's like, it's not there. And so we need to do something different. So we'll be working on that. We're gonna have an after action meeting that will bring everybody together and look at ways we can do better. So, and I'm wondering if all those people came because we put this in peach jar. Councilmember GK. It works. They came.
Be careful of what you ask for.
I'm joking. We did do that, but I'm joking. Do we have any questions on that? No. Well, huge thanks to all of our sponsors and honestly, all of our volunteers and we could not have done it without them. And again, it was a success. It was a great day. It was beautiful weather. We would just like to elevate it a little bit more. Thank you.
Thank you, Jody. Great job. Yeah, I'm sorry. Councilmember Duque has a question, Jody.
Can you remind me, all of the sponsors were absolutely fantastic and everyone with all the booths, but there were so many people, as you mentioned. Can you remind me of all the sponsors or groups that helped you put this together?
Yeah. So we had our premier sponsor who actually wasn't there that day, but that's JL Remodeling. And then we have Town and Country. They provided all the candy. We had, I'm just doing this off the top of my head, so this is gonna take me a second. Town and Country. We had Nothing But Cakes was one of our sponsors. Stellar Kids Dentistry always put on an amazing booth and they were fantastic. Town and Country did too. We have a new person that we're working with there and they did a great job. We had the Kiwanis, North Creek. We had Mill Creek Kiwanis, North Creek Rotary, Mill Creek Rotary, the RPD, and I'm just gonna make the round.
State Farm?
Starbucks was there, State Farm, our MC, Chris Jones. We had Premier Martial Arts, Nancy's Noah's Ark was one of our sponsors. However, they did not have a booth there. We had the YMCA, we had Washington Rush, who's actually one of our, they use Mill Creek Sports Park. So they're one of the folks that use Mill Creek Sports Park. Lisa Marie from our passport office got them to volunteer and do the tattoos. So that was really special. It was on her birthday too. Let me make sure I'm not missing anybody. We had Face Paint Seattle there with balloon twisting, and we had Mad Science there doing slime. We had the food bank there. Did I get everybody? I'm
Well-
taking a walk around the.
Well, I thank you, because I think that's what's really important when we talk about the measure of success that you were
Yeah.
talking about, and I understand the numbers and all that. But it was so great to see all the volunteers and all the was it 2 different Key Club groups, but obviously in the Mill Creek
Yeah.
Youth Advisory Board, there are just so many people volunteering to work towards a successful community event that I consider that part a huge level of success.
Thank you.
You
And I
know?
would totally agree with you on that.
Yeah,
For
so
sure.
thank you.
And they work, as you know, months beforehand to make all that happen. This year we worked with the Jackson High School Key Club and the North Creek Key Club a lot for setup. They were fantastic. Barb worked with them for, did you do 6 or 8 different egg nights with the Key Clubs? 4 out of the scheduled ones, okay. But yeah, they put in a tremendous number of hours. And we had people coming up at that event volunteering. We had Eric Casper, who is the president of the Jackson High School Booster Club. Is that what you say? Booster Club? Football boosters volunteer the team next year to be field marshals so that we could get the parents under control. That was a thing. So we thought, you know what, we're just gonna brainstorm and work out those kinds of ideas. So, and volunteerism totally is at the heart of this whole thing. So thank you for that reminder. Okay.
Thank you.
No other reports, Mayor.
Okay, I've got a handful of things, few reminders. F1 and taxes due on the 15th. SEC dinner is April 18th. Let Adrian know by the 12th if you want to attend. I think we already covered the development tour coming up. The only thing I'd add about the state of the city is we're also working on getting a meeting set up with Susan Del Bene immediately following the state of the city with Mayor Pro Tem and I and city manager and deputy city manager. A little heads up, since I know you guys, some of you enjoyed this event so much last year. It's not public yet, but the tentative date for the NBA crab feed is going to be June 6th on Thursday. I'm not sure the location yet. I'm not sure if it's going to be back in Mukilteo or not. I have my South County Mayor's meeting tomorrow, which I can report on next week. We started those, a year and a half ago on Zoom, and then about 6 months ago, we finally started meeting in person, and we had been meeting at Briar Pizza. But we're now starting tomorrow, going to rotate amongst the cities. So tomorrow we're in Mukilteo, and on August 7th at our meeting, we'll be at a place that I have yet to determine in Mill Creek. So we're moving those around to the various cities, kind of like the Snohomish County cities used to do that they no longer do. And the last item that I just highlight is the Snohomish County Executive last week issued their recommended future land use map for their comp plan update due later this year. And the two things I'd point out, one I wasn't aware of, one I was. The one I was aware of is that part of the comp plan, their executive is proposing they're calling the urban core sub area, which is basically the area between Linwood, Mill Creek, and up to Everett, where the light rail stations would be. And if you look at the land use map, a lot of that area that's not, some of it close to the transit stops would be redesignated for high density. But the other areas that are now designated for low, what they call low density, more traditional single family, would be upzoned to medium density. So that's a big area where they're proposing to put some of the growth for the county, and that, as we talk about annexation or not to annex, has an impact on that. And the other thing I hadn't been aware of is there was a docket request that the planning commission and executive have both recommended be in their final map that's adopted, is to redesignate the area on west side of 527. I think their geography is wrong because they say it's a half mile south of the city. It's not a half mile. It's basically where the old nursery was, and from that area down to 180th and then a little bit south of 180th. That is all designated by the county right now as urban industrial, and they're proposing to change that to urban center. So I don't know what that means in the future of what may happen there, but I wasn't aware that they were looking to make that change. So that is right on our southern border, and it's not a half mile. I'd say more like maybe a tenth of a mile, but it's very, very close. So just want to highlight that. It's all available online if you're so inclined to review all that on the Snohomish County has a 2024 update page that is pretty comprehensive. And I think that was what I had for this evening. Councilmember Cavalieri, any report tonight?
Thanks, Mayor. I had a coworker talk to me this morning, and he told me that today, April 2nd, is Autism Awareness Month, and his son is someone who was diagnosed with that at a very young age and has a very severe case of it. And so I, of course, wrote a check to what he was raising money for, but then I did a little digging, and some of the numbers I've come across so far are astonishing. That less than 15 years ago, 1 in 44 children were diagnosed with autism. And 15 years later now, 1 in 36 were diagnosed with autism. And that growth, that number just seemed absolutely shocking and I guess appalling at the same time. Just wanted everybody to be aware, if you can maybe have it within your means to help the cause, write a check. Please do so. Thank you.
Councilmember Steckler, any report?
Just a couple of quick things. Last week I had a chance to go to the chamber lunch on Tuesday, and I just wanted to remark on the capacity of people in the room. It was huge. And how our chamber has grown, and I toured the offices that we allowed them to use over there. And I really have to commend the city manager and his staff for putting that relationship together with the chamber and allowing them to use that space and giving us a stronger chamber is a very smart move for our city. And they are putting on a number of activities, a number of events, a number of things that are making our city stronger. And it's just a great success story. And I want to make sure that we tag that on record. I did want to remind everybody, which I'll be doing for the next few meetings, May 5th, it's a Sunday. That will be the electronic recycling event being put on by Kiwanis and the city. So free electronic recycling of old electronics that you want to get rid of, and they can be actually turned into some good use as opposed to just landfill. Let's see, maybe the 18th, he gave me that one. One I'm gonna just briefly address because I'm gonna hope that Sean, Councilman Paddock will talk more on this, but he made us all aware here on the council about after last week's discussion on speed cameras that a new Washington law is allowing for a greater use of speed cameras because they have found to reduce traffic fatalities and activities and just the appearance of them do that enough alone. And so they're allowing those to be used in more areas, not just in work areas and school zones, but also in just areas of abuse. So I thought that was interesting. He'll probably talk more about that because he's the guy who found it. And then last, we met Nicole who's the new editor of The View last week or last meeting here. And I had a chance to follow up with her. And she definitely wants to make The View a much better relationship with the city and the city council about making sure the citizens are aware of what's going on. We were talking tonight about our new strategic vision and how the challenges that we're having in getting the message out to citizens and getting their feedback. I'm sure the city could partner with her and maybe even put together quite a big spread on our strategic vision and have some questions that we could ask of citizens in a place where they could go to supply their answers. I think that would be really good to try and get maybe more than 100, maybe 1,000, maybe 1,700, 2,700 people commenting about what they think they would like to see. I think the more that would be greater because we all have our own opinions of what we think the future should look like. And all of us up here, we're elected to our positions. So we serve the citizens. So the more we can get, and I can get personally, what the citizens want, I know better which ones to champion. So I'd love to get more input. Maybe we could see a great partnership happening there with The View and with the city, especially with the strategic vision. That's a big deal to the citizens. And I think that could also be a good way to kick off, her, taking over the paper. So that's it.
Councilmember Ellison?
Yeah, so I also was at the Orange Line ribbon cutting ceremony and just wanted to give a shout out to Mike Todd and his team. They were called out by name and thanked by the person conducting the whole thing. So good job.
Rick, Mr. Ilgenfritz.
Yes, I couldn't think of his last name, Rick. And that was a $60 million investment and like 80% of the funds come from federal sources for those projects. So, that's our first east-west connector, those high-speed buses. It is kind of a big deal. And it really serves our community well. I know I've had two kids that went to Edmonds College and they had to take the Milk Run bus. So the next child, if she chooses that route too, she's gonna get to ride the slick new fast bus. So that's all.
And while the Orange Line is open, maybe next week we can get a report from staff why the stop at Mill Creek Boulevard and 164th is not yet finished. But that's not a discussion for tonight. Councilmember Duque, any report?
Yes, uh, du-du-du-du-dum. I want to say first, thank you to Councilmember Steckler for attending the Lunch and Learn from last month. I wasn't there for it, and so I really appreciate it. But we had our the Mill Creek Chambers board meeting today, and so we talked about, I think it was 140 plus new membership for the chamber, and that's a huge number. And so thank you for everyone. So here's my reminder of the start of the month for events. And if you ever need a buddy, feel free to let me know and then we can go together because I'm generally at most of these. Tomorrow, there's the Engage Mill Creek. It's at China City from 4:30 to 6:30 p.m. I'm going to go there before I go to the Parks and Rec board meeting and hopefully not be late for to be there on time. And then there's a coffee connection. So that's if for those of you who maybe before work can do, that's 8 a.m. to 9:30 a.m. And all this information is available on the website. And then the next Lunch and Learn is on April 16th. So if anyone's interested in any of those and want to go. And then my only other report, I didn't get to attend the Orange Line ribbon cutting because I did go. My kids are of the age for the extravaganza. And I just wanted to point out that I completely, by viewing kind of the responses I've been seeing on social media, you would think that it was not a good event. But if you look and dig deep into it, most of the comments had to do with things that we as a city really can't control because it's human to human interaction. It's parents not telling their children to not allow their 5th grader to go on the field at the same time as preschoolers. And I share this and because I haven't been commenting on social back, but that really seems to be it. So whether it's grown so much or whatever I really appreciate the looking through it, but the volunteers, everyone there trying to make it happen, it was great. I happened to set up expectations for my 2 young kids. I reminded them they're probably only going to get like 5 or 10 eggs if that, because there were just so many people and we were there more to spend time with classmates and friends and that kind of experience. So I want to thank all the volunteers who took time, not just on Saturday and all staff, because there was a lot of staff at the booth who took time or came to put this on, because these are the kinds of things that are important and that fills our community of what we value and those opportunities. So I just want to say thank you because it's really grown and there'll have to be a lot of looks to it. So thank you to everyone who put that together.
Senior Paddock, any report?
Just one yes and to the Orange Swift Line celebration. The so what for the community is obviously this is going to be a rapid way for our community to get directly to Edmonds Community College, as well as in October the light rail directly, and that's going to be a tremendous value to our community. And I think we all must have heard this 17 times. The Swift Line was delivered under budget and ahead of schedule, and they wanted to make sure that we knew that loud and clear. So I wanted to be able to share that. Hopefully I won't underwhelm anyone with Councilmember Steckler's request for more information on the Washington State Legislature enabling broader use of traffic cameras. That's about as much as I know as well, John. So I know that it's a broader use. I'm sure we'll need some sort of legislative, public works, public safety commentary on that. But we should call out that our own LD 44th legislator, Representative Donahue, was the one that shepherded that through the Transportation Committee, and I think it's going to benefit our community quite a bit. That's it. Adios.
Thank you, Sean. Okay, it brings us to audience communication. Anyone like to address the council in the chambers? Anyone online? Not seeing any. That brings us to the end of our agenda. So hearing no objection, I'll adjourn the meeting at 8:18 p.m.